Hello everyone and welcome to the Empowering You to Achieve More with Azure AI webinar for the Microsoft Azure Virtual Hackathon 2021 powered by Microsoft and organized by Agorize. If you want to participate and you're interested in this hackathon, please feel free to either scan the QR code you see on this screen or use the URL below to access the hackathon page and participate. So welcome everyone, my name is Sarah Hearn, I'm Project Manager for Agorize, and today we'll also have the speaker Ian Choi, who is Developer Product and Marketing Manager for Korea at Microsoft. First of all, let me go over very quickly the hackathon timeline. So we will have 3 phases for this hackathon. The first one is open call, which is the current one until the end of this month for everyone to register, team up and submit their presentation. Then we'll have the deepening phase that will be running from mid-March to mid-April, where the teams will be able to further develop their proof of concepts and be invited to attend a webinar. We'll also have afterwards the pitching day, which will be the week of May the 3rd, where all the finalists will be pitching their final projects. And of course, what's at stake is what everyone wants to know for this hackathon. So there will be different prizes awarded. There will be a first prize, which would be of $8,000, then a second prize of $5,000, and a third prize of $1,000, which will be given to 4 teams. And there will be additional bonuses as well, which will be to gain visibility and pitch in front of a large audience. And you'll also have business opportunities with Microsoft. Now, there's also additional prizes, so feel free to have a look at the hackathon page, as that page lists everything in detail. So that's it for me. I'll now leave it to Ian Choi, who, as I said, is Developer Product Marketing Manager in Korea for Microsoft, who will be the main speaker for today. So Ian, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah, for your great introduction to me. And please wait for a few seconds to share my screen. And then I think all can see my screen. So then, yeah, let me start my presentation. Yeah, hello all. Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm Ian Choi, and I work in Microsoft as Developer Product Marketing Manager, and I'm based in Korea. And today, following up the previous webinar by great speakers who there, today then I would like to more talk on Azure AI side with developers tools perspective. So let's move to next presentation slide. So let me start with our implementation perspective. How we can implement AI with many technologies like great machine learning algorithms. So about 10 years ago, then there were no state-of-the-art deep learning algorithms like CNN, convolutional neural network, or DNN, or and so on. But at the time, then there were only supervised learning or unsupervised learning type. There were no reinforcement learning. Also, then to implement any kind of machine learning algorithms or models, then you need to collect lots of data, and then need to define features, and then you need to hypothesize your thoughts, and then how you can apply by classification algorithms or regression algorithms, or then what are cost functions or gradient descent, and then to develop how many layers on convolutional neural network or deep neural network, and then at the time, and also then what are perceptron, then max pro, and so on. But my question right now is that the goal of AI is to empower everyone to achieve more with AI. For especially developers, then we need to think about how we greatly innovate our world. So my question is that, so those knowledge should be definitely beneficial to us, but we need to also think about what would be our great architecture to realize great AI with great machine technologies, and how we realize with great architecture to provide real good services as a kind of with lots of supporting great scalability issues or some kind of auto scaling or service chaining or and so on. Not only this, but also then we need to think about AI should be beneficial to all of us. So then we need to think about how AI technologies can transform our industries to empower organizations and also to empower our all of the world, like AI for Earth or AI for good or and so on. So my question today starts from how to empower through real implementations by considering great architecture and machine learning technologies. And then I would like to take an example by demonstrating how we can implement with Azure for our great hackathon event. This is just one slide to show what are the top, what are layers on our Azure machine learning and AI. Yeah, Azure machine learning actually has 5 different layers. The first layer is for the people who just would like to leverage pre-trained models to accelerate their existing business models so then to easily integrate with existing pre-trained models. It would be simplifying for real solution development. Using this is also for AI. Not only this, but also then trying to think about then what are real world data and what are real features and then how we define great features and how to model, how to conceptualize your features with great machine learning or deep learning models would be important. There are many popular open source frameworks like PyTorch, TensorFlow, Keras, and also then for interoperability issues, then Onyx is really great for interoperability and also then performance issues. And also then there are many productivity services for productivity. Azure Databricks is so great to deal lots of amount of data. Then I will just show today the demo screen, UI screen on Azure Machine Learning service on the top of Azure. And machine learning virtual machines are also great to use existing popular open source frameworks to use your trainings, or then you can learn also even Jupyter Notebook on the top of Azure machine learning virtual machines, data science virtual machines. Then behind of this, there are also powerful infrastructure, like then you would like to just leverage CPU, or then for deep learning purpose, like convolution neural network, and then GPU would be best. And the FPGA is a kind of specialized hardware dedicated for great deep learning or machine learning. And also then finally, how we realize with our great architecture with cloud, or then with on-premise environment or using hybrid or multi-cloud, and then what are the role of edge cloud with IoT sensors, so on and so on. So those are mainly 5 layers how to implement with Azure Machine Learning AI. And then for this, then I would like to a little bit conceptualize that how we can empower as a kind of developer mindset and developer tool mindset for great AI. So the first one I would like to first start is that what are the tools on GUI and command line interface, and also then your actual implementation through codes. For GUI, this is basic demo and a very easy demo. So when I go to somewhere who are not familiar on what Azure AI is, and then I would like to just show this is one Azure service page on Face API. And then when you scroll down, and then yeah, you might imagine that, oh, this is predefined result, but it is not. It is real AI. This is a picture, then when you click a picture, then the picture is sent to Azure, and then through API, and then the result is come like this JSON format. Yeah, this is AI. So this is to detect where people's faces are, like what are top and what are left and what are height and what are height, or and so on. So you can even upload your picture by searching to somewhere, then you can copy, paste copy and paste image URL, and then also then you can browse your local file and upload. Yeah. This so easy. So this is how to realize your idea through Microsoft AI just using GUI interface. And then this is one example picture on detecting people using face API. So then AI can better identify them for the gender, then age and clashes and emotion. Then those data is sent as a kind of JSON format. And also then also then after then we can use you can leverage this kind of data into relational database or then NoSQL to save those data, and then you can also use for further AI steps. And also then to realize this is just a demo using GUI interface, but you might be very interested in how to integrate with your development codes. In that case, and then you can leverage using REST API tools or SDKs. So yeah, there are great documentations on the top of Azure, and you can easily search using Bing or Google or any kind of search engines, and then you can easily search this Azure Cognitive Services documentation to leverage APIs using pre-trained models. And then it supports not only just a specific language for .NET, but also it supports lots of many different programming languages like Node.js, PHP, Python. Also, then C command should work or and so on. So please leverage those kind of SDKs for and also REST APIs. And then this is another environment on using Visual Studio Code and WSL. Then for me, then actually then I installed my terminal, Windows terminal, and then at the first time that it runs on PowerShell, but however, then I already installed Ubuntu. This is Windows subsystem on Linux, and then through here, then I can easily run Jupyter Notebook, and then I can go to I can execute Python 3 and then create some virtual environment, and then like this way, then to create a virtual environment and then source this virtual environment and then implement and try to conceptualize some models and so on. And also then now, then Visual Studio Code is very smart. So for example, then when I run Visual Studio Code, and please wait for a while, then it should come a Visual Studio Code, but oh yeah, there should be some issues on my laptop, so please wait a second. The issue I'm facing is that I'm a Korean native speaker, so I configure the theme as Korean, but I can change language, display language as English. Restart, and then you should see Visual Studio Code on English. But today, then what I want to emphasize is that there is a kind of this tab on the left bottom side, and then I can easily switch to WSL environment. Frankly speaking, for me, then I have been developing many and interacting with many open source communities. In that case, and then sometimes Linux is better than using Windows for Python environment. And then sometimes, and then I also need to both test on Linux, both in Linux environment and also Linux environment. In that case, then switching this using Visual Studio Code was really helpful to me. So when I switch, and then when I switch this as a kind of WSL environment, and then I can run a new window, and then it is run on the top of Windows, and this Visual Studio Code is run on the top of Linux environment. And the extensions are managed separately. For example, when I go to extensions tab, there are local extensions on the top of my Windows, and also there are also extensions on the top of WSL. And then there are many great extensions for Python developers and also for AIs. And then I can also install on my WSL environment. And also another great thing is that now Python, by installing this Python extension, then you can also see very easily on Jupyter Notebook file or just inside Visual Studio Code. This is very cool. And then, yeah, like this way, then I'm interacting and then I'm doing many kind of developer environment using VS Code. And then today, then I finally would like to demonstrate soon with this Azure Machine Learning Studio on Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so this is the first perspective on GUI tools, CLI tools, and your implementation through cost. And then hope that such kind of different environment harmonizes and converges to all of your hackathon team members. Some might be more familiar on GUI, and then some might think just, oh, how to leverage pre-trained models. And then some team members would like to more focus on more on own machine learning model using previous pre-trained data models research. Also, then some team members would like to define how to make great model using great algorithms or lots of great data and by defining great features. And like this, and then for implementation, then please consider lots of different type of tools best suitable for all of developers. And second one is that, yeah, I mainly emphasized pre-built trained models, but sometimes you might really want to customize your models or build your own models. Yeah, as I demonstrated on Azure Cognitive Services product site, and then there are many sophisticated pre-trained models like computer vision, video indexer to find context very easily using AI. For example, then there are 10-minute video, then how many speakers were there, then how or what the speaker is mainly talking, then what would be the key image on this video or and so on. And for face API, then as I demonstrated, then it detects then where are the position of faces, and then also it detects the more context for each people's face. And also content moderator is also another pre-trained model for computer vision. And then language is would be also important. As I showed, and then I'm a Korean native speaker, so I cannot read all of the things only in English. Sometimes then I need to translate and then share with Korean developer communities, or then sometimes then I would like to share also great Korean communities content into all global of the world. I cannot translate all the things by myself. So I'm really leveraging this kind of language translation tools. Also, then there are text analytics to capture more context from the text, just a number of sentences. And also the spell check, language understanding, text translation, or Q&A maker, or and so on. And also Bing Search leverages great pre-trained models from the search result, and speech recognition is for text-to-speech or speech-to-text or and so on. Yeah, this is one demonstration, video demonstration, then how we leverage for custom AI. This is how to add your own data, pictures, and then by clicking this, and then you can add images, and then clicking blah 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 blah. Those are heads, or those are panties, or and so on. And then, yeah, it will be for image upload, and then it is how to augment your own knowledge into pre-trained models on the top of Azure. So by using this, then you can leverage your custom AI models by leveraging previous well pre-trained models. Then for custom AI, it would be very great to mix then for the convergence of pre-trained models and also then custom your own dedicated models with your own data. And then you can create train, and then you can define choose of type, quick training or advanced training, and then it might show some iteration, how many iterations, and then what are precisions or recurs, or like this way. And this is training step, and then after that, and then you can test by uploading a specific image. Yeah. So when I go to this, let's test how whether it can detect or not. Oh yeah, it detects that it is a kind of hard hat. Pre-trained models didn't have context on whether those are hard hats or and so on. Pre-trained models just detect a specific type of, oh, this is just a thing or and so on. But it looks that dedicated custom model will detect on a with specific context. Yeah. So this is a demonstration for custom AI, and also then even then you can develop your own great AI algorithms by defining your great features, and then how many layers you would like to add, and then like this. This is just a change of recent classification algorithms for ImageNet contest, and then Microsoft won in 2015. But after then other competitors also win, and then like this way. Yeah. Okay. And then let's move into the third perspective. Then architecture decisions, performance, and MLOps. Okay, this is one example of reference end-to-end architecture for greater AI for real production services. So usually then when I talk with many data scientists, data engineers, or AI modelers, or great researchers, and then it is rather difficult to capture all of this kind of great architecture. So it seems that in Korea, at least now, then the job who can oversee all kind of end-to-end architecture, and how it can be better designed with great data, and in the case then how the service can be supported with great scalability, and also then how data real-time data is well processed, and also then what are the for example, then what is actual response time on requesting many kind of customers request, API requests, and then what are average of response time, or and so on. So there are many kind of different real production perspectives. So this reference architecture shows that Azure Kubernetes to leverage Azure Kubernetes service to deploy container-based model models, container models on the top of container to scale all kind of requests parallelly using load balancers or great Kubernetes, and also this part is for NoSQL, for non-relational databases like JSON type, as I showed earlier, and also then this part is actually preparation and training part. And then from large amount of data from IoT or live streaming data, or a kind of some batch job which runs for every 10 minutes or every hour, and then it goes to Azure Data Factory to integration services like this is from SQL, Microsoft SQL Server, or it is from another one, and so on. Data Factory is converges all kinds of different sources of data into one next step. And then data lake is a kind of real data lake to store all kinds of data. Then after that, those kind of data is moved for great training on how to process with large amount of data by using a kind of big data technologies like Hadoop, and also then machine learning service is also for how we manage a number of different models by using how many iterations you did, and what are the differences between previous iterations or next iterations, and what are the results for your previous experiment, and what would be your expectation on the next experiment, and so on. And also then what would you like to use your popular open source framework like PyTorch, TensorFlow, and what would like to your preferred programming language like Python or R. And then there would be also some relational database type and then in that case, the SQL data warehouse would be great to manage relational data. And also then for non-relational data and then operational databases or live data, and then NoSQL like Cosmos DB service would be really great. And then Power BI is dedicated for visualization for analysts. Then how we capture and then get insights from large amount of data by visualization, like using graph or and so on. So this is one example on end-to-end architecture. And then one thing I couldn't emphasize using this architecture is on MLOps, but I will explain MLOps on the next step. And also then this is a little bit more simplified conceptual reference architecture for COVID-19 search app. So then when you think about your great architecture on using Azure, then please think about who are actors, like users or admins, then who are stakeholders on the app. And also then there would be some operators or monitoring people and so on. So and also then what would be public facing services like app services, and then for which kind of pre-trained models you would like to leverage, or then if you would like to leverage your own machine learning models and then using container service to deploy your containers would be very great. And then you can also use Azure Container Instance for conceptual architecture, but it can be scaled using Azure Kubernetes Service or and so on. And also then if you like to just virtual machines technology like leveraging GPU, and then data science virtual machine would be great on Azure. And then for large amount of plain data, then just leveraging using blob storage would be very helpful. And also then those text analytics for health is pre-trained AI model to mix of your own AI data model, AI model, and also then your great pre-trained data model on the top of Azure. And then some additional data set for your hackathon will be great, like which kind of data you would like to leverage during your hackathon period. COVID-19 data set, what are the samples of data set, and what are the sample rates, and then whether the data is biased or not. That will be also a great perspective to consider for your conceptual architecture with great vision. And now that I would like to move to the concept on MLOps. MLOps is machine learning plus operation, but it is more than DevOps. So that when we usually say DevOps, and DevOps is the composite word on development and operations, and Dev plus ops, and then there are developers and there are operators, and they need to collaborate together for greater processes like productivity or people or processes. And then managing code and managing infrastructure and which kind of source control technology like Git would be very great, and also how to manage multiple build versions and how to manage your pipeline. Those are very important for greater collaboration. But the reason why I would like to say MLOps today is that for hackathon, usually then there are less number of members. So sometimes they really need to collaborate together. So personally, I really don't like silo work, individual work. For hackathon, then I really would like to expect more on teamwork. Then, and also then I previously have seen some great hackathon teams in global. For example, then one member lives in United States and the other person lives in Singapore, and then another person lives in New Zealand, and then they work with different time zones. But what if they turn on their laptop and then develop their daytime and then just turn off their laptop? The other hackathon members would not know what they did. So for this hackathon, then it will be great if you consider, and if you are familiar a concept of DevOps, And then leveraging MLOps concept would be very helpful to collaborate more tightly collaborate with your team members. And just uploading, developing using Git, and then before turning off your laptop, then please push your source code by by putting the command git push. Or then if you have some conflict, and then please push into another branch and please leave a comment. And that would be great. And then other members can follow more and more. Then it can be augmented. And also the team members can share their project status on Azure DevOps boards or the GitHub project. And then they need to share their stages and then what are their time or then what are common infrastructure or what are environments as code. And then how you manage also then. But for MLOps, one great thing is that you can also think about then how many experiments you did, and then what are insights from many previous experiments, and then what are current experiments, then what are pipelines for each experiment, and then also then you need to track which kind of machine learning model you used for version 1 model, and then version 2 model, version 3 model, then what are iterations on each experiment on different model. And also then from this, you need to capture great insight. MLOps is not just for learning with CI/CD, continuous integration or continuous deployment. MLOps is more on how we apply great concept of DevOps into machine learning or AI environment. So I hope that this slide would be very helpful for your greater understanding on MLOps. And Azure Machine Learning Service actually targets for greater MLOps by easily correlating a set of great Azure cloud services and also then your preferred programming languages. So it should boost your data science productivity or increase your rate of experimentation or deploy managerial models everywhere. And also then you can think about more on DevOps stuff. But for this, and then you can also easily think about scalability when you work with DevOps concept. But now I would like to demonstrate on my recent article in Korean. So recently I wrote an article in Korean. So I used Bing translator from Korean to English. Please understand it's not perfect. I wrote Azure in Korean, but however, it is currently wrongly translated. I can provide my feedback to enhance Azure AI, but I would like to this for today demo. Then this blog article is for how to apply AI with great fairness in mind, and then there is a fair run open source. This is really great to more think about not only the bias of your data and models, but also think about actual fairness on greater AI, which means that now then fairness is a very one of controversial on very important research topic. So how AI can provide use great data or provide great result with well fairness. So then I leveraged using this Azure machine learning service. This is my Azure Machine Learning Service resource configuration. Then I can download this config.json, or then I can additionally install Azure ML SDK on the top of my Visual Studio Code. And then using this configuration, then I can directly communicate using Visual Studio Code in my local environment. And also then there is now GitHub code spaces. Using your GitHub code, and it is currently still in pretty remote, but you can easily integrate using with your GitHub environment to code space environment, a kind of virtual Visual Studio environment, and then you can integrate your development with your great IDE like Visual Studio Code. And then I installed one Visual Studio, one Jupyter Notebook, and also that I can open in VS Code as preview, or then I can directly edit by calling Jupyter Notebook on the top of Azure. Then, for example, then this is to load a Jupyter Notebook file, and then I wrote all the things in Korean, but however, then I can easily translate. So hope that this translation works. Yep. Yeah, let's start to. So this is a kind of how sample code how to leverage fairness on using Azure Machine Learning Service. So for this, and then I loaded a sample data set from OpenML. So then Azure provides Azure data set as Studio told on last webinar, but openml.org is very great for open source database for greater machine learning. So this is a census database for others mentioned on a paper in 1996 on this paper, and then and pandas scikit-learn is very great to load data just by typing data ID. For example, then this other other data set is the number of this data set is 1590, and then I just load this data using this number. And then so I loaded, and then I excluded sensitive features because then I think, for example, for sex and races, and then it might harm fairness or biases. So then I dropped the data, and then I saved this as xlog. And then this is to show, just to show that what are how many samples on the data. Also, then it shows on this openml.org homepage. And also, then this is the sample data, what are the data sets. And then I split into a training set and test set. It is one great best practice to separate 70, 80, or 90% as training set or remaining percent as test set. And also then I dropped some unrelevant indexes. And then I just used, in the case, I just used decision tree classifier, which is provided on scikit-learn, great machine learning framework data, like machine learning frame library. But yeah, you can define all your own model, and then you can define a number of convolution neural network, and then you can think about then what would be the number of layers, then what are filter the length of filters and by width and height, or then like this. And then usually for fairness or for bias, many AI research engineers and also the AI many modelers and also data scientist engineers just check usually accuracy, precision, recall, or F1 score for many kind of classification methods. But however, and then if you go to a kind of this documentation, for example, then it first country laws in Korean because I just typed Korean page, but I can usually change in US. And then, there are usually recommended metrics for classification models like accuracy, precision, and also then there are also other metrics for regression models, so and so on, like MA, RMSC, or and so on. But for this, and then I would like to emphasize that what are fairness, how we better think on you read sensitive feature names, then let's see how fairnesses are related. So I loaded on with some already executed. Hope they learns. Or then I need to restart corner and then redo some result because I ran this job of a few days ago actually. But yeah, this might not work. Yeah, actually, it is no more open source software, but for on the top of Azure, it is already integrated with dataset, experiment, channels, and models. This is this is a user interface on Azure Machine Learning Studio, and then on notebooks, then I manage this Azure Jupyter Notebook file. Then to execute this Jupyter Notebook file, then I created one computation resource, and then it is currently run on the top of this CPU-based intensive resources. And then the Jupyter is run actually on the top of data science virtual machine. And then I'm using Python version 3.6 and then also Azure ML SDK. But I already executed many kind of experiments for demo and then for another experiment or for another experiment, third experiment and so on. So it is based on how you manage different experiments. And then let's think on MLOps perspective. Then if you first need to think of then what are your data sets. Currently, then I just leveraged the data set from OpenML database from the internet. But however, then you can upload your different data set and you can manage different data sets differently. And also then what are pipelines to execute actually using CI or CD. And then what are your models? Actually, then I uploaded version 1 and then version 2 to enhance from the default decision tree classifier using different metrics. So for version 2, and then this model would be related with fairness. Like then, and then I can browse my fairness using fairness this ID. And then I can test, then whether the data is very fair for races or some sexist perspective and so on. And then I can see, then let's see more accuracy perspective. And then, it shows, then for accuracy perspective, and then you can also more think on such kind of selection rate or demographic perspective, false positive or false negative. Also, then you can also think about more on selection race perspective using with different races or and so on. So those information would be very helpful for more thinking about more evaluating on fairness perspective. But this time I just wanted to emphasize from my simple source code to how you think about what are data sets and then what are experiments and then what are models and what are experiments and then what are iterations to execute several times with different parameters and so on. And then also then what are actual endpoints, then how you would like to deploy your model into another virtual machine or a kind of Azure container instance to deploy one container for test, and then whether you would like to deploy your container into a Kubernetes service like AKS or and so on. So hope that this perspective will be really helpful for MLOps to better understanding Azure MLOps with your hackathon members. Okay, then let's go back to my presentation slide. And also, and this is kind of deployment perspective. How you define your register model from pre-trained data model or your customized model or your own model, and then what are your IDs like Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio or other IDs or and so on. Then what are your container registry to manage different number of different containers, and then how you would like to leverage just cloud services or edge services, and then what are real production perspective or and so on. Finally, then for this hackathon, then I'm personally really hope that you also think about more on ethical considerations. As I briefly demonstrated on fairness perspective using fair learn open source, it is currently supported as a kind of preview on top of Azure using fair learn open source. Why? Then we might need to more think about ethical considerations. Whether, for example, that whether your AI implementation is really helpful to enable some people, or then how your real AI model or your using data set is really inclusive, and then whether your AI results are really fair or transparent, and then when whether you are really considering great privacy perspective or legal perspective or and so on. So then there is a great URS on from Microsoft for our approach to AI, and then hope that such kind of information would be very useful for you to more think about ethical considerations. So yeah, this is almost the end of my presentation. So yeah, today then I want you to talk how your team members better collaborate each other using MLOps perspective by dividing into GUI, CLI, or somewhere using whether you would like to leverage pre-trained models or customized models, and then what are the concepts on MLOps for your team members, then also then how you better consider ethical perspective. So hope that it will be very helpful for defining your great architecture using Azure, and then hope that it would accelerate your great hackathon activities. So yeah, this is and also then I also previously then I about 1 year ago then I demonstrated how to develop very quick web service using React technology. So this URL will be very helpful to easily show how to integrate pre-trained models API into your web pages. Because then we also need to think about what are public-facing websites for and so on. And then this is a great Microsoft Azure machine learning algorithm cheat sheet. So that if you more would like to dig into your algorithms perspective, and then hope that this chat sheet is helpful. And then there is also Azure AI Hackathon hackbook developed by me and Sudhir and also other APEC AI experts. That hope that such information is helpful to you, and then hope that it empowers also great powerful Azure infrastructure, and then hope that it would better support to build your deep learning models, or and also that if you are still not familiar on Azure itself, and then Microsoft Learn provides lots of self tutorials, and also then sometimes then you can do your self hands-on lab without any consumption. So then please go to Microsoft Learn, then browse lots of AI courses or then Azure infrastructure or Azure developers courses. Yeah, this is the end of my presentation, and hope that my presentation is helpful to all the hackathon participants.
Thanks a lot, Ian. Thanks for those interesting insights. So now we're going to move to the Q&A. So we'll be answering all your questions. Just a quick reminder to all the participants, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the Q&A box and we'll be answering those. So we can start with the first question from Milk, which is, can we have an explanation on each of the judging criteria? What do each criteria mean? So I'll take that question. So for criteria by criteria, so the first one, the best use of Azure APIs means how you leverage the existing APIs rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and invent new ones. So for example, we can build an AI model to convert speech to text, which will take efforts and time, and instead we can use cognitive services. Then feasibility of solution is how easy it is to implement the proposed solution to any problem chosen by the participant. Then complexity to implement is it actually possible to implement the solution? Is the solution complex? It's generally it's generally favored to find a solution that's easier to implement. Then team complementarity means how are you leveraging the diverse skills of the people that are in your team and their backgrounds. And then the last one, originality, is quite straightforward. That's like who just giving points to a solution that's never seen before and not already available. And then solution architecture with Azure is how well the Azure APIs and Azure services are used in the architecture. So I hope that answers your question. Then we have another question, which is, I'm a beginner in programming and I have an insurance fintech startup. How can Azure ML help utilize mobile data application design? So Ian, I think that's a question for you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So then to better understand the question, then let me see again the question. Yeah, the question is she or he is a beginner in programming, and she or he has some experience insurance and fintech startup. Good to know that this person is working on insurance or fintech startup. Actually, then I would like to first suggest to more think about how digital technologies better enable insurance or fintech domain sector. For example, then previously, then there are many kinds of manual work still. For example, then for insurance people, then they manually go for sales activities, and then sometimes then they need to collect and then think about and summarize the preference or the personalities on not personality, then what are interested things on different type of insurances, and then they need to better define features and then develop great algorithms to better identify for greater recommendation for new or potential insurance customers. And also then travel ticket system would be really great. So actually then still then there are many consumers who need support. So the chatbot would be a great example with insurance knowledge. For example, Azure provides pre-trained models also for chatbots, but however, then this chatbot is just dedicated for general purpose. This chatbot doesn't have the detailed deep knowledge on insurance. In the case, then you need to more think about that. Oh, what would be customers' question? For example, the customers usually would like to blame some type of special type of insurances, or then they would like to discuss more how insurance company would provide discount or and so on. So for developing great chatbots for insurance would be great, and also for fintech, that would be also interesting technology. So right now, blockchain technologies are really great to more think about distributed architecture for lots of different fintech technologies. This would be very great. Also, there are many kind of digital parts which can be more digitalized. For example, I'm now hearing lots of great examples on from China. Yeah, I went to China before COVID-19, and then I found that Chinese people don't have to bring credit cards or cash. They all process using just QR code on some kind of mobile applications for fintech. And please, for fintech, and then thinking about whether some digital technologies would be helpful to your country would be also great idea to think about as a kind of this hackathon topic. Hope that my answer helps. And although, oh, sorry, I didn't read the final part. How can Azure ML help utilize mobile data application design? Yeah, as I said on fintech, then there are great mobile applications for more efficiency for people using QR codes, or then what would be easier way for UX or UI perspective for mobile. Then how we would like to better capture great mobile usage data for people. Then what are their user time to use their mobile applications, and then what would be more recommendations for the people. Hope that my answer helps to better ideation for your great hackathon submission.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ian, for your answer. And I think that there hasn't been any new questions, so I think we can close the Q&A for now. So thank you, everyone, for your questions. So just as a quick reminder before we finish this webinar today of what's at stake. So as I said, we've got 2 grand winners. The first prize will be 8,000 USD. That will be for the grand winner across all problem statements. We'll have also a second prize of 5,000 US dollars for also the runner-up across all problem statements. And then for the third prize, we'll have 4 times 1,000 US dollars for the best team in each problem statement. And of course, we have the extra benefits that you see here. And again, just as a quick reminder, there's more prizes stated on the hackathon page, so please feel free to have a look at that as well. And for our next webinar, it will be on February the 18th, on a Thursday, and it will be an interactive Q&A session. So thank you very much for participating in this webinar today. Again, if you want to join the hackathon page and participate, if you're not doing it yet, please use the QR code that you see here or the URL, and we'll see you soon for another webinar. So thank you very much, and bye-bye.